Hey everyone, welcome back. Ready to dig into some fascinating research together?
Absolutely. Always excited to dive into a new topic.
Today we're tackling superfoods.
Such a buzzword these days, isn't it?
Yeah, it seems like every other week there's a new miracle food hitting the headlines.
Right. And the marketing around it can be, well,
A little over the top.
to put it mildly.
So we thought it was time for a reality check.
Exactly.
We've got a stack of research papers right here, and we're going to break down the science behind these so-called superfoods.
Sounds good to me.
But here's the thing. Our goal isn't to tell you what to eat or to promote any particular food.
Absolutely not. We're all about empowering you with the information to make your own informed choices.
Exactly. So to kick things off, let's address the elephant in the room. What even is a superfood?
Well, that's the funny thing. The term superfood itself, it doesn't actually have a legal or scientific definition.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
It's true. It's really more of a marketing term,
Yeah,
Something that's become popular in recent years.
because everyone wants that quick fix, that magic bullet for better health.
Exactly. And while there's nothing wrong with wanting to improve our health,
It's important to remember that it's not usually about finding that one miracle food.
precisely, it's about the bigger picture.
Right. It's about the whole foundation, not just one or two super bricks.
Oh, that's a great analogy.
So with that said, I'm curious to dive into some specifics here. I'm looking at our research, and I'm seeing all sorts of interesting foods listed: Brazil nuts, hemp seeds, even camel milk.
Quite the variety. And they all have their own unique nutrient profiles.
Let's take Brazil nuts, for instance. What makes them stand out in this superfood world?
Well, Brazil nuts are a fantastic example of a food that provides a concentrated dose of a specific nutrient. In this case, we're talking about selenium.
Selenium. Okay, refresh my memory on why that one's so important.
So selenium is a trace mineral that plays a crucial role in thyroid function, among other things. And the interesting thing is that a lot of people don't get enough selenium through their diet.
So it's about filling in those potential nutritional gaps.
You got it.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, what about hemp seeds? Those seem to be popping up everywhere these days.
Right. Hemp seeds have definitely gained popularity, and for good reason. They're a powerhouse when it comes to protein content, and not just any protein. Research suggests that the protein in hemp seeds is actually more digestible than casein.
Casein, that's...
The protein found in milk.
Oh, right. So for people who might have trouble with dairy.
Hemp seeds could be a great alternative source of protein.
Now, I've also heard that hemp seeds are a good option for those with nut allergies, which is something I'm always wondering about when trying new foods.
That's a great point. And it is important to be mindful of any allergies you might have. While hemp seeds are generally considered lower in allergens than some nuts.
It's always better to be safe than sorry.
Exactly. Especially when it comes to food allergies. Always best to talk to your doctor or a registered dietitian if you have any concerns.
It's good to have that reminder that we all have unique needs and situations. But I do have to say, looking at this list, a lot of these superfoods seem a little exotic.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
Like, I'm not sure camel milk is going to become a regular part of my grocery list anytime soon.
You and me both. And you've just hit on a really important point. This idea of superfoods often focuses on trendy or hard-to-find ingredients.
Which can make healthy eating feel kind of intimidating, honestly.
Exactly. Like you need to have a degree in nutrition and a passport to eat healthy.
Or a really big grocery budget.
Right? And that's just not realistic or sustainable for most people.
And that makes me think about another important aspect of all this superfood hype. What about the economic side of things?
Oh, absolutely. That's a crucial part of the conversation. We can't just talk about nutrition in a bubble.
Right. Like, what about the farmers growing these foods and the communities where these foods come from?
Exactly. Our research actually highlighted one example that really stood out, the quinoa boom from a few years back.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. Quinoa was everywhere.
It was. Salads, soups, even breakfast cereals.
It seemed like everyone was trying to get their hands on it.
And that surge in demand had some unintended consequences.
How so?
Well, quinoa has always been a staple food in places like Bolivia and Peru.
Right.
But when demand from other countries skyrocketed, well, the prices shot up too.
So it became too expensive for the people who'd relied on it for generations.
Exactly. And it's a reminder that our food choices have a ripple effect. We need to think about the bigger picture.
I totally agree. It's about finding that balance.
Right, exactly. It's about thinking about affordability, sustainability.
In fairness.
Yes, 100%. So, with all that said, I'm curious, Do you think that maybe we're getting so caught up in chasing after the latest superfoods that we're overlooking some of the more everyday affordable options?
You mean like the stuff our grandparents might have eaten?
Exactly. The things that might not sound as glamorous or exotic, but that have nourished people for centuries.
I think that's a really good point.
Yeah.
And it ties back to what we were saying earlier about how there's no magic bullet.
Exactly. There's no single food that holds the key to perfect health.
It's about the whole picture.
Precisely. It's about building a foundation of a variety of foods.
Most of which, let's be honest, probably aren't going to be trending on social media.
You got that right. But that doesn't make them any less valuable. In fact, sometimes those simpler, more traditional foods can be even more nutrient-dense than their trendier counterparts.
And likely easier on the wallet, too.
Exactly. And when we focus on incorporating a wider variety of those kinds of foods...
We're not just taking care of ourselves, we're supporting sustainable farming practices.
And promoting greater food justice.
Exactly. It's all connected.
It really is. And you know what else?
What's that?
We shouldn't forget about the pure enjoyment of food.
Oh, absolutely.
Healthy eating shouldn't feel like a chore.
Or a science experiment.
Right. It's about finding pleasure in nourishing our bodies with delicious whole foods.
And sometimes, those simple, traditional foods, prepared with care and love, can be the most satisfying meals of all.
Couldn't agree more.
Although, I have to admit, I still catch myself getting drawn in by those headlines about the latest miracle foods.
Oh, me too. It's hard to resist sometimes, right?
It's like we're wired to look for those quick fixes.
I know. Especially with so much information and misinformation out there.
It can feel overwhelming to sort through it all.
Absolutely. So how do we navigate the world of food and health without getting caught up in the hype?
Or without feeling like we need to spend a fortune on groceries.
Right. That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? How do we find that sweet spot?
Yeah, that's the challenge, isn't it?
It is, but it's not an impossible one. I think it starts with shifting our mindset a bit. You know, instead of constantly searching for something new.
Maybe we need to rediscover what's been right under our noses all along.
Exactly.
Like, what about those foods that have nourished people for centuries but maybe don't have the same flashy marketing appeal as the latest superfood trend?
That's what we need to be talking about. And our research actually highlighted a few great examples. One that comes to mind is garden cress.
Garden cress. Okay, I'll be honest, I'm not familiar with that one.
It doesn't get as much hype as some of the others, but it's packed with nutrients. And the best part is,
What's that?
you can easily grow it yourself, even if you don't have a lot of space. Just a sunny windowsill will do.
That's pretty cool. I'm looking at our notes here. It says garden cress is a good source of alpha-linolenic acid. I'm going to be honest.
Go on.
I have no idea what that is. Can you give me a little refresher?
Of course. So alpha-linolenic acid, or ALA for short, is an omega-3 fatty acid. It's one of the essential fatty acids.
Essential meaning.
Our bodies need it to function properly, but we can't produce it on our own. So we have to get it through our diet.
Gotcha. Okay, so back to alpha-linolenic acid in garden cress.
Right. So garden cress is a great plant-based source of ALA, which is important because...
A lot of people think of fish oil when they hear omega-3s.
Exactly. But not everyone eats fish, or wants to, for that matter. So having plant-based sources of ALA, like garden cress, is really important.
I'm starting to see why this garden cress made it onto our superfood list.
It's a nutritional powerhouse, and it's a perfect example of how we can find amazing, nutrient-rich foods without having to search far and wide.
Or empty our wallets.
Exactly. And speaking of rediscovering traditional foods, there's another one I wanted to mention. Maca.
Maca. Okay, yeah, I have heard of that one.
It seems to be gaining popularity, which is great to see. It's been a staple food in the Andes Mountains for centuries, and it's only recently gained more attention in other parts of the world.
Yeah, I feel like I've mostly seen it in smoothies and energy bars.
Right, and it's often marketed for its energy-boosting properties.
Which makes me wonder, is there any truth to that? Or is it mostly hype?
Well, like with many traditional foods, there's often a lot of anecdotal evidence to support their use.
People have been using them for generations, so they must be doing something right.
That's exactly it. And with maca, modern science is starting to uncover some interesting findings. Research is still ongoing, but there are studies suggesting that maca may have benefits for mood, energy levels, and even cognitive function.
Wow, that's fascinating. So maybe not a magic energy drink, but definitely a food with some real potential.
Exactly. And I think that's what's so exciting about this whole field of food and nutrition. There's always something new to discover. And even those foods that have been enjoyed for centuries can still surprise us.
It's like you said earlier, it's all about the bigger picture.
It really is.
It's not about finding that one magic food or following the latest fad. It's about appreciating the incredible diversity of what nature has to offer.
And figuring out what works best for each of us.
Exactly. And I think that's a great takeaway from our deep dive today. So, to wrap things up,
Yes.
remember, there's no one-size-fits-all approach to healthy eating. But by being curious, staying informed, and not being afraid to think outside the superfood box.
You can absolutely find a way of eating that nourishes your body and brings you joy.
Couldn't have said it better myself. That's all the time we have for today, but we hope you enjoyed this deep dive into the world of superfoods.
Thanks for listening.
We'll see you next time.